You've been monitoring election for as long as I know you, you know, following developments in Nigeria and all that. First of all, before we go into all the details that Tinebeso has listed here, let's find out to you, have you monitored election manually when it was, you know, manually transmitted and manually voted and all that? What difference do you think electronic transmission of results after election will make in trying to, you know, put the electoral process in perspective, avoid any form of malpractice? Do you think it will actually do so much?
Thank you, Nkoli. Thanks for the compliment as well. Yes, since 1999 I've been observing election in Nigeria. I'm not a monitor because it's a monitor can intervene in the process, and only INEC and State Independent Electoral Commission staffers are allowed to interfere with the process. But for us as observers, who have had over 22 years of observing election in Nigeria and outside of Nigeria, I am of the considered view that if we go electronic, it's going to add to the electoral integrity of the country. Right now, there is a lot of mistrust and doubt that Nigerians, particularly the youth of Nigeria, believe that our election is opaque. Not in the sense of people not being able to cast their ballot. Yeah, that one is a given. Everybody sees that. Our observers are there, you know. But the moment you move to collation, that's the magic politicians always wave. Because at the collation center, that's where you have talks invading the center. Let me bring you to 2019. In Bauchi, I think either Tafa Balewa local government or Bogoro local government, you know, talks allegedly invaded the collation center and made away with the result form that was meant to collate for governorship election. That was meant to collate the result of that local government. So after the talks left, the collation officer decided to use the word collation form. They now said, no, you can't use this. Anyway, that is not an isolated instance. We've also had similar experience, even in Benue, where a professor who was a collation officer on our way from one of the local government back to Makurdi was shot. And several other incidences that desperate politicians orchestrate when they want, because they know is the collation center you aggregate all the votes. But assuming that from the polling unit where everybody gathered, sometimes you have as many as 100, 200 people staying behind to watch that collation process. And they see through that process. If at that point they know the result had been transmitted to a server somewhere, it cannot be altered even at collation point, because everybody will follow through the collation process. And that's what Independent National Electoral Commission started last year with National State Constituency election, which was later amplified and in Edo in September and Ondo in October last year, where they now created a portal, a result viewing portal for Nigerians. And the result of each polling unit is now uploaded on that portal. And if you log in, you can view it, you can do your own independent collation. That is the added value to that process, which we will miss if this opportunity is not given to the commission. And I understand the nature and character of our politicians. If you read my column in the Punch yesterday, I talked about desperate politicians. This status quo of having manual collation favors them. And it's not about APC or PDP. It's across board. Everyone wants the status quo to remain purposely because they know that this idea of putting pressure on collation officer or returning officer to make wrong declaration will be gone for good if we have that electronic transmission. Because you then, everybody, citizen observers, from the comfort of their rooms, can start tallying. And you know, candidates too will set up their situation room, and they will have opportunity of every result being announced at polling unit, being tracked, and they can do their own independent tabulation. So if at the end of the chain, you now announce something contrary to what has been pronounced by the presiding officer, you know something is flawed with that process.
All right, let's speak to Ankyo Briggs now, Niger Delta activist who is on our virtual platform. Good to know you're still there, Ms. Ankyo Briggs.
Thank you. Yes, I'm still here.
All right, what do you, let's have you, react to the manner in which the federal lawmakers at the National Assembly considered and eventually passed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill.
Well, I mean, what happened on the 15th at the National Assembly shows very clearly how divided right down the middle in Nigeria that we are, which is showed up so clearly in the way and manner in which the voting was carried out, and in the complaints that the National Assembly is lopsided, and also the fact that there were some senators, some representatives that didn't find it necessary or fit for them to go and represent the people that supposedly voted them in. But very clearly, the members that have voted for rigging, as far as I am concerned, at the National Assembly demonstrated that this is a pre-planned strategy to make sure that the 2023 election is rigged. We've been warning about this for a very long time. Definitely my organization that I belong to and have convened, the Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement, have said so at every opportunity that has been made available, that this government does not intend to hand over power, and it will look for any means necessary to make sure that it does not hand over power. You have INEC saying, as far back as 2018, we're told, and it's been proven, Okoye has said so, and we have seen it even in Edo, in Ondo, and in 26 other constituents where they have been able to do this. And may I remind you very quickly that this was attempted in Rivers State, my state, where people were killed in my community, and there was no voting in the presidential election in my community and local government area because of this attempt to refuse people to vote and let their vote count. This is just an idea to make sure that people's vote don't count, and that the government does what it wants come 2023 and just announce results. And they're making sure that they're doing it across board. And very clearly, you can see, in my opinion anyway, by the way people are crossing over to the ruling party right now, that the only reason why people would do that is becoming very clear, and that is because they've been assured that if they cross over, they will definitely win election because of the way that the government plans to conduct the election. That someone from the National Assembly can hand over the powers of INEC by law to the NCC to be part of the election and to actually have a say in what INEC can do, and to say that INEC does not have capacity. The NCC is not in a position, does not have the right to say that INEC does not have capacity, when INEC is clearly saying and has demonstrated that it has capacity to transmit election. And like my colleague in your studio has said, that this if you transmit the figures You can't fix it again once you have transmitted it. It's like collecting money, 20,000 naira from your bank ATM, and the receipt shows that 20,000 was taken. If you dispute it, then you have to go to the bank physically and make sure that everything tallies. So it's a shame, it's an embarrassment, it's unacceptable that this government is planning to deny Nigerians they claim voted for them the right to choose who's going to lead them.
All right. Still staying with you, Ankel. You said, as far as you're concerned, the people that voted against this or added that caveat, to subject INEC to NCC and deprive it of its constitutional power of independence, are voting for rigging as far as you're concerned. But let's look at some of the arguments they have posed, for doing that. Even the Senate president has been trying to justify the position of the Senate, and as well as some other lawmakers, even some we've had in this studio. The fact that the claim is that some of these areas, particularly areas that have been troubled by insurgency, have had their communication gadgets or installations tampered with. And then even one lawmaker did say that in his hometown, there is no network coverage at all, and several other places. And saying that the people that voted against it are standing for Nigeria, they say they are also Nigerians and they are representing their constituencies, and this is probably trying to protect their constituency. Do you think there's any valid point in this?
There is, as far as I am concerned, there is lack of confidence in what even the Senate president is saying. This is the Senate president in 2015, when he was picked by his peers to be the Senate president, said very clearly that there is nothing that the president or the presidency will bring to this 9th National Assembly that will not sail through. Now, having said that, I will definitely not have any confidence at all, or very minimal confidence in what he says. Now, because somebody says that there is no network in his community does not mean that there is no network. That is one. Two, I don't understand the concern today for the people that terrorists have driven out of their community in the past 6 years. And in the last election of 2019, they were not concerned about these people. They are not concerned about the people. If you're concerned about the people, you should get them back into their communities, into their ancestral homeland, into their homes, and not wait and use election as an excuse and say you're concerned about these people. There are two different things. If you're concerned about them, which you ought to be, is your responsibility, but you are not concerned about them. It's not true that INEC does not have the capacity. MTN and so many other networks, especially MTN. MTN has said that it has almost 89%, and it said this as far back as 2019, that it has the capacity of up to 89% across Nigeria. Now, if that is the case, what of all the other transmitters, the other network houses? They also have capacity. So when you put this together, to begin to say, and for NCC and the National Assembly, there is a collusion, as far as I'm not, a coming together, as far as I'm concerned, between the NCC, which is a government apparatus headed by someone that already we have issues of trust with, and then having someone from NCC go to the National Assembly and completely overturn what the NCC had earlier said, which is also up on their website, unless, of course, they've gone to remove it now, which is also possible. So to tell us that the reason why this tsunami have come to hit us, and we foresaw this tsunami coming, to say that it is just about the fact that there is no network in their place. Look, during Jonathan's 2015 election, three times in his community, he was not recognized by the very machines that he approved for the 2015 election. He did not stop the election. People were saying to him to stop the election. If the president cannot be recognized, then you should stop the election. And yet, for the sake of Nigeria, he went ahead and conducted, or rather partook in the election manually, so that everything could go on the way that it ought to go on, and not just because of him. So for the National Assembly members, already in a National Assembly that is lopsided against a particular section of Nigeria, for them to compound what is going on in Nigeria by making sure that we end up with a one-party state, by making sure that almost everybody who will run an election on the platform of this government is going to win, is disgraceful, is horrifying, and is so undemocratic and unacceptable.
All right, thank you, Briggs. Just still hang on with us. We'll come back to you, but let's talk to Jide Ojo, who is still very much in the studio. Jide, Section 78 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, is very clear, on who should conduct elections. INEC, has been granted that power to conduct elections and, of course, determine, the procedure and processes for the conduct of elections in Nigeria. But INEC cannot do that in isolation. It needs the support of other agencies of governments and even, the private sector and the media to do its work effectively. On this issue of network connectivity that is generating so much controversy, can INEC carry out electronic transmission, either e-voting or e-transmission of results, without the cooperation of agencies such as the NCC?
The answer is no. And people need to look beyond what NCC said. I'm a student of politics, and it is said that in politics, the only thing that is permanent is interest. And our challenge in this country is challenge of political elites. They want something favorable to them. I said it, I wrote a 2-page article for this day, or this Tuesday, where I espoused my own opinion about all that transpired. The calling on NCC to come and testify was premeditated. It was premeditated to the extent that the man that came was giving 2018 data in 2021. Are we saying that there was no improvement in technology, in facility, in infrastructure between 2018? If they can pledge on 9th March 2018 to INEC that this thing is doable, 3 years after, should it not have consolidated? So who is fooling who? You go to the service provider, the operators, they say we can do it. The regulator is saying we can't do it. Then something is fishy. And mark you, let me tell Nigerians, it's all orchestrated, it's all stage managed. All that we are seeing, all this confusion was stage managed from the beginning. How? This committee was a joint committee of National Assembly. Unlike the Constitutional Amendment Committee, they decided to have a joint committee since 2019. After setting up that committee, they went through the process, first reading, second reading. People should not forget that this is a private member bill. It wasn't an executive bill. It was not the presidency that sent the bill. And, so they went through the motion, committed after the second bill, it was passed for the second reading. The said committee go and work on it. This committee went, harvested memoranda from the Nigerian public, over 70 of them. They have a technical committee that was set up comprising of representative of INEC, of Office of Attorney General, and the two committee of the National Assembly. And they went to work for months. They had about 4 retreats. They agreed on their submission. And at the point, just when, mark you, they promised us December 2020. Oh, they said, oh, sorry, we need to do a thorough work. Give us till the first quarter of 2021. From first quarter of 2021, they said, oh, the report is not ready. Give us till second quarter of 2021. Second quarter of 2021 went. It took the pressure from from civil society. You recall that on more than one occasion, Nigerian civil society members and groups went and marched on the National Assembly to say we want this electoral bill passed. Because we knew they were going to go on annual vacation in July. That was the way they went in 2018. So, if all of this, if they meant the interest of Nigeria at heart, what they should have done was to prioritize the passage. Because even if they pass this bill in January of 2021, it doesn't mean that when it gets to the presidency, we are sent to it. There could still be some housekeeping to be done. We knew what happened last in 2018 when the president sent it back to them 3 times. And they passed it on 4 different occasions. The last time they passed it, the president said, oh, sorry, according to ECOWAS protocol, we are not to alter the legal framework for election when it's 6 months to election. And as at that time, it was 70 days to the election. So, what they are working towards, which Nigerians should advance their mind to, is they deliberately left that bill to the last day of their sitting. They knew they were going on vacation on 14th. It's not like it just came upon them. So they left, they said, okay, don't worry, we will pass it. So first quarter went, second quarter went, then we got to third quarter. They were looking at their vacation inside. They now slated it. The bill that had been ready since March was now being laid on 13th. Was it 13th or 14th? The Wednesday preceding the 14th, last week Wednesday. So when it was laid, before it was laid, a week before, we started hearing what was not discussed at the technical committee level, which was that the Senate has gone to review what the technical committee has done by inserting about 3-4 clauses that was not part of the agreed position.
Which was denied.
Which it was not denied. Senator Kabiru Gaya, I watched him on your sister station where he was struggling to say, you know what, this is just a proposal, is the plenary that will decide. It was not agreed at the technical committee that the issue of electronic transmission will be subjected to NCC and National Assembly. It was not. What was agreed was the version that the House of Reps passed, which is to say that INEC should use whatever methods they want in as far as it is, as soon as it's practicable, which is also an escape route to say, like is in chapter 2 of the Constitution, all these socio-economic rights, which they say free education, free health services, as soon as it's practicable. It has never been practicable since 1960. But at least that gives INEC some level of discretion to say if it audits its own system and preparation and it's not yet practicable, they can say, sorry, we won't be able to do this for 2023. Let's look at 2027. We need to pilot and everything. Now, you can see NCC coming in 2021 to give us data for 2018. Are they saying that there is no fresh data, updated data, and even at least as at December 2020? Where are they citing the data of 2018? But beyond and above that, now look at what they are orchestrating. The 2 chambers ended up passing different versions. It then means that, 1, they have to set up conference committee. They didn't set up this conference committee before they went on their vacation on Friday now. So they will come back in September to start setting up conference committee. By the time the conference committee meets, it has to be passed by the plenary, as was the case with the PIB. Now, by the time they come back in September, it will be to come and receive the appropriation bill for 2022. And that becomes the new priority. So at the end of the day, you may not even have this bill, the harmonized version, being transmitted to the president until maybe September or until maybe October or November.
Many people are wondering who is lying to who. Could it be that the technical director, commissioner, was not part of that meeting? Or we also had an INEC director of legal services here, I think 2 days ago, who said that even the man himself was part of that meeting. So what could have gone wrong? Could it be that NCC has an interest in the election, which it is not a party to, or is someone pushing NCC to lie to the country? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind anytime the federal government comes up with these strategies that it applies to confuse Nigerians and to lie to Nigerians is that I ask myself, what is going on in Nigeria? First of all, why did the National Assembly first invite INEC to come to the National Assembly, and then uninvited INEC from coming to the National Assembly? That is very clear that they knew beforehand what INEC was going to say, which is the truth. Now, as I said earlier, the NCC is an arm of the government, and Pantami is the head of NCC. Now, the question is, why invite Pantami, who is NCC and has no powers to have a say or conduct elections? And yet, you have people who are providing the service of conducting election, that is INEC, which is supposed to be an independent body. And then you also have the service providers that are going to provide the service that that INEC is going to use to transmit the results electronically. Now, these two people, like you earlier mentioned, the information is that MTN and other service providers since 2018 and 2019 have moved forward. We have 3G in most places, and so 2G is not really the issue anymore. Even we have 4G in some places. The phone I use in Nigeria is 4G, and many people use 4G phones. So to hear this confusion and these lies reminds me, or even for me to point out to you, that very soon you will be hearing about the fact that a man, the professor in Akwa Ibom, that was convicted of election rigging, is actually a free man as we speak now. He has not served his term, and yet he has been given bail without going to appeal. That is the type of Nigeria that that we live in. You're going to hear very soon that the government has now set up the electoral commission for electoral fraud. Okay, fine. If you're setting up this commission, who are the people? Who are you going to appoint? You're going to appoint people from your political party so that you can use them to still manipulate the system. And so Nigerians have to ask themselves and answer this question, and ask the president and the government and their so-called representatives. And I'm proud of my senators that all of them were there and they voted. The reality is this, that we have a government that does not have no regard for Nigerians and decides what Nigerians can hear and cannot hear, what is true and what is lies. We are not allowed to decide for ourselves what is true and what is not true, and so on and so on. Therefore, we have to insist that INEC is allowed its independence to conduct the 2023 election. what is coming, I'm afraid for Nigeria. I'm afraid for Nigerians. I am very worried and very concerned that we are in 2021 talking about accepting, discussing how people like me are trying to, if you like, are trying to inform people of what is blatantly obvious, that there will be no election as we know election to be, which will be free and fair in 2023, that this government does not plan to hand over political power, and that it intends, in whatever way it is going to come up with, as we are now seeing, it intends to hold on to power.
All right.
It intends to turn Nigeria into a one political party state.
All right,
and unfortunately, we have a political party that is supposed to be an opposition party to if you like, to help Nigerians to understand what is going on politically, that have failed Nigerians. And that is why you now see people like us in studios shouting and highlighting these very critical issues to fellow Nigerians, to say that, look, sit up, wake up. What is about to happen is going to tear Nigeria is already torn apart, actually. Nigeria is torn apart. And what we are now saying is that the only way forward, the only way out, is for us to have a referendum. And if you refuse a referendum, then let us, restructure Nigeria. If you refuse to restructure Nigeria, let's have a referendum. Let Nigerians of all ethnic nationalities, from all the 36 states, make their own decisions for themselves. We cannot and should not be expected to go on like this, where television houses, media houses are being told by an arm of government that they can no longer give information to Nigerians. So now, if we don't have information, on what are we going to base what we are assessing? So where is the truth going to come from? And whom is going to tell us this truth? So what I see, what I fear, is that we are, by next year, going to find ourselves in a worse off situation than we are right now. You see what is going on. People are being, people who are speaking up, people like Sunday Igbeho, are being hounded either by the government or by the headsmen or by the people who are killing them. And yet you will hear the government once in a while come up and say that they are doing this electoral issue that we're discussing is because of the people that have been displaced. No, it's not because of the people that have been displaced. It's because of the plan that a few people have to control Nigeria, to control the resources of Nigeria, and to impose their will on the rest of Nigeria. We're talking about a service not getting to some people. How many people are we talking about? Nigeria has not even conducted a census almost in 20 years.
All right.
And yet we are talking about being concerned for Nigerians. Which Nigerians are we concerned about? And how many are those Nigerians?
All right, Ms. Angio Briggs.
Nigerians must wake up.
Ms. Angio Briggs, let's stay with this issue of network coverage and connectivity, which of course is at the center of the controversy that affected the way the lawmakers voted last week at the National Assembly on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Just like my colleague in college said much earlier, some of the lawmakers, clearly stated that they have no network coverage in their various areas and communities. You are from the Niger Delta region, where we have several riverine communities. Tell us what the situation is like in the Niger Delta region, as regards to network connectivity. Can INEC, for instance, conduct elections, in areas such as Ifoko Okodia, Zarama, and Ikpokulu. Do we have, enough or sufficient network coverage in those areas that can enable e-voting or e-transmission of election results?
Well, I come from the area that you have mentioned. There is no doubt that we have fluctuants, if you like, with network. It's all over the world. It's everywhere. But the fact that INEC, the fact that the National Assembly wants to hang its coats on the fact of what the service producers, providers have said that they can do, and by the map that you are showing, by what the service providers are saying they can do, the National Assembly is saying that it cannot. What we are saying is that if the INEC says that they can, and if we have service in places like Ifoko that you have mentioned, and we have service in places like Kola, where the oil and gas is, and if there are places we cannot have service in, and someone says, all right, let us in these places identify them for the sake of Nigeria and one man, one vote, and make sure that these people get to vote in another way, and that the election, the results are brought a day or two later, that will be understandable. But to say that you totally reject the issue of transmitting results from Abuja, from a metropolis in Abuja, from Abonima in Rivers State, from Nyanagoa or in Biama in Bayelsa State, Patani in Delta State, that you will deny these people the rights, or rather the opportunity for their votes to be protected. Mind you, let us not lose sight of the fact that electronic transfer, where and when it is possible, and it is majorly possible, it actually saves lives. And I mentioned to you earlier how my people were killed in the 2019 election in my community. Now, if there was no worry or fear that the presidential election would be lost in my community, which it would have been lost in my community, then there would have been no reason to oppress the people from casting their votes. To use, I repeat, to use the facts or the lies that we cannot transmit from a few places according to them. Therefore, even the places where we can transmit results should lose out. I think that is irresponsible, that is backward movement, and it's just not acceptable. I don't know how else to express this. For someone to say that, to highlight the fact, again, I repeat, that it is because of a certain people that they are worried. What about, I don't know if you heard, where one senator was claiming that there is no network in his community, in his village, and another senator from his state was telling him, more or less, that he's lying, that he has network in his place. And this is somebody from the southern part of Nigeria that happens to be in the ruling party. And so the people in the Senate are not taking their responsibility for the people who supposedly put them there. They are taking their responsibility for a political party that is going to drive Nigeria into a point where Nigeria cannot recover. As it is today, it will take, it's going to take the grace of God for Nigeria to move forward and maintain Nigeria as a country. By what is going on in Nigeria, people are fed up. I am fed up that we should be denied every step of the way. We're not allowed to speak. or when people speak, they are afraid to speak. People cannot tell the truth. And people in Nigeria have this thing about not being interested anymore in politics and not being interested in politicians anymore.
All right,
Because
thank
quite
you.
honestly, it is lies that are told us more often than not in Nigeria.
Now, interestingly, Nigerians are actually showing more interest now. Otherwise, the public outcry that has greeted some of these issues wouldn't have occurred. So this shows a sense of responsibility by Nigerians. And I remember that even civil society activists like you have actually gone ahead to talk about this and put pressure on the National Assembly to at least do the bidding of Nigeria. And this may be one of the issues also that will be addressed. So let's come back to you, Jide. Many people are worried that if there's a claim that because of lack of network connectivity in some remote areas or where they call blind spots, which of course the telecom operators, according to INEC, has promised that they will be able to sort out. Nigerians are denied electronic transmission of results in elections, which from what Ankyo said is not just about even the Electoral Act now, but actually safety of even INEC officials, who most of them are being, are being dealt with in the name of carrying ballot box or trying to stop them or make them declare results under duress and all that. Apart from taking care of that, there are some people that have also raised issue posers. Because Ankyo said something earlier about Pantami and the communication and digital economy we're talking about. Some people are asking if Nigerians have been asked to register their SIM cards, register their name, number, and details with the communication ministry, and that will help to track criminals in the country. And here we are saying we cannot track election results electronically. So is it not one cancelling out the other?
Not necessarily, actually. Not necessarily one cancelling on the national identification registration is for all ages, all Nigerians. But I see the duplicity in what is happening. You have to do BVN, you have to do, everything now is biometric. International passports, driving license,
WAEC examinations, everything.
You want to do UTME, you have to do. So this is the way to go. This is the way, and I need to.
But don't forget that some of those who engage in these registration, be it SSC, JAM, as you have said,
from all parts of the country,
travel from the hinterlands, to the city centers,
exactly,
to be able to do so, because
see, even with this issue
of sufficient,
even
coverage
the issue,
in those areas where they are coming from.
Even in terms of coverage, you see, don't ever despise improvement. What INEC is trying to bring is improvement, is added value. If politicians have allowed INEC to be, we will not even be talking of infusion of technology. After all, Ghana has had several elections without technology, using manual collation. But because of pressure from the political elite, who will stop at nothing, including killing, maiming, destroying. Look, even this conversation we are having is a preliminary conversation. You should know that. Look at how they went for smart card reader and started destroying it, stealing it, burning it. It was deliberate to frustrate. I recall that in 2019, on the eve, about a few days to the 2019 election, in Anambra State, INEC lost over 4,000 units of smart card reader. And since then, look at, INEC came out and said 41 of his offices were set ablaze. By who? Political interest groups who just wanted to frustrate. So this is just preliminary to say, let's scale this order. I know for certain that even if we go electronic transition, it's not the antidote to electoral fraud. You should know that. It's not an antidote to electoral fraud, because human interference will still be involved. What if somebody is put under pressure as a presiding officer and said, this is what you should
send.
put. And look at how they killed 10 youth corps members in Bauchi State in 2011 after the presidential election. Why? Because they were not ready to do the bidding of certain political interests. So what we are saying is that at least if we infuse technology, it will add another layer of integrity to the process. And it will make youths of Nigeria to have confidence in the process. Namibia is doing electronic transmission. Brazil, India, Indonesia. There are several examples around the world. Even South Africa. We should copy best practices. It is the peculiarities of our system that makes us to be asking for electronic driven elections. But in Europe and America, they don't have that kind of trust issue. So in Germany, they don't need the electronic transfer because people don't even want to go into government. Because they are poorer coming into government than if they are in their private businesses. And so, but here we are. And we should make that distinction that Pantami is not in charge of NCC. Pantami is the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy. NCC is just a parasitic under him.
That's what she was trying to allude to. So
I think we should just make that distinction and clarification. But for NCC to make a somersault on what they have promised INEC in 2018 to start telling us that this is not doable, every system is prone to being hacked. We should know that. And what INEC is promising Nigeria is not altogether only technology driven. They are still going to do manual collation. From what I knew INEC did, in all this result viewing portal, what they do is polling unit result, EC8A. After it has been filled, signed, they will now scan it and upload it. So it's not like you are going to be sending SMS as a result. Because if we do, I remind you of what happened in Kenya in 2017. In 2017, because of the electronic transmission of results, that was why the Supreme Court of Kenya nullified the election of Uhuru Kenyatta, the first election. Because when they compare the manual results and the one that were transmitted, there were discrepancies. Do you get it?
All right,
it does add another layer of integrity.
Sorry, let me let him, Tina, let me let him respond to this clarification. Because why I alluded to the issue of SIM registration and NIN registration, every Nigerian is expected to be captured, right?
Sure.
200 million of us.
206 million.
Yes, so whatever figure it is. So what it means is that there has to be network. You have to be a network user for you to be captured. So if we are now saying there's no coverage in some areas, it means we'll also be leaving out some Nigerians, isn't it? So that's what I'm saying.
No, this is it. What INEC has even done is you scan the result. If there is no network where you are, as soon as you move to where there is network, it will upload. It's like when you leave a message on your messenger or your WhatsApp. You know, if there's no network where you are, the message is hanging. As soon as you move to where there is network, automatically it will go.
Meaning that if all Nigerians has to be captured,
yes, it is possible.
With their network, then it's possible to transmit election results electronically. All right, let's go back to Ankyo Briggs.
Let's have the concluding thoughts of Ankyo Briggs, who's still very much on our virtual platform. Well, Ankyo, for INEC to still stand its ground on e-transmission of results against the interest of some powerful political forces, does it give a sense that we have an electoral umpire that is unbiased and independent?
Well, INEC is the constitutionally empowered body to conduct election. What the National Assembly has done by what by the votes that it by whatever it did on the on the 15th is taking that power away from INEC, and I'm not surprised that INEC is standing its ground. Look, we have a senator that is in the Senate right now, whose collating officer stated very clearly that a gun was put to his head, and he had to announce the person who is now in the Senate, and that person is still a senator in this political party, in this government. And so when in rounding up, I want us to focus on, I don't know if we're rounding up, but I want Nigerians to be focused. They are focused now. I want us to move forward with this focus that we have. One, Nigeria is in deep trouble. The Senate today, by what it did on the 15th, have taken Nigeria into darkness. It has taken Nigeria into darkness. And whatever that happens between now and 2023 and going forward in elections in Nigeria, what if Nigeria is still Nigeria, should be blamed squarely on the shoulders of this 9th Assembly. They must take, history must record them as being responsible for where Nigeria is finally going to end up when it comes to election. Right now, I mean, they used to say the law is the hope of the last hope of the poor man. Well, it seems like even election is the last hope of the poor man, free and fair election. And what's happening today is that the senators that we put there, supposedly we put there, and the Senate is our power, is the power of the people. That is our house. That is where we exercise our rights and our powers through these people. And these people have taken this power and they are using it for themselves. We will hold them responsible for shutting down democracy and for lying to the electorate and for taking away the right to free and fair election. History will not let go of the Senate president. History will not let go of the people even that did not turn up. I want to call on them that the people who did not turn up should turn up after the Salah celebrations, and they should join their colleagues that voted against election rigging, and the people that voted for election rigging should search their conscience
Thank you so
for
much,
the future, because even their children will be held accountable for the crime they are committing today against Nigerians. Nigeria is broken. Nigeria is a Humpty Dumpty, and only restructuring and a referendum and even a new constitution is going to save Nigeria from where this government and this Senate has taken Nigeria into. It has taken Nigeria into darkness.